stand. And here we go. Okay, so to this point, you have gone over, at least if you've been to all the classes or you've been following online with our videos, you've gone over how to use our tools, how to cut out a character or an object, cutting out SpongeBob. You've gone over pasting your own object, cutting out and placing somebody else, adding those objects to a background image. We've gone over using the text tool, how to type things, how to add effects onto those text tools. So we've done a lot of stuff, really trying to be or to figure out some of the groundwork and the foundation to our Photoshop program. Okay, that's okay, Lex. I'll try to talk and give us some time. Plus, I am recording this too, so it'll be posted later, so you guys can go back to it. We're gonna have a while to get through this project, so I don't want to stress you too much. And it's basically gonna be doing stuff that you already know how to do. I'm not really gonna show you anything really new. If you've been doing the projects that we've been leading up to, which hopefully most of you have, I've seen that on the grades, you should be able to do this project pretty simply. The way that it kind of goes is I've walked you guys through the last couple projects, kind of holding your hand, like, hey, stay on here, let me walk you through the steps, helping you, like seeing your screen, making sure you know how to do everything. So this is kind of like your test now, where you're just going to run with it and you're going to build something out of all the knowledge that you have, because you should be able to use those tools, okay? So what we are going to do today is we're going to intro going through building our own magazine cover. Okay, so remember we did the magazine sketches, we talked about the layout of the magazines, and then we also had you guys sketch out your rough drafts of what the magazine cover is going to look like. You also looked at an image already, so you should have an image in mind from doing that a magazine rough draft, and now we're going to end up creating our cover. Okay, so one of the examples that I gave was weightlifting. And so I'm going to use that for my 3 because I don't have a rough draft to go off of. You guys have a rough draft to go off of. Understand too, little side note, if you turn in your rough draft, when you turn in your final magazine cover, I should be able to look at both of them side by side and say, oh yeah, this is what the rough draft was. This is the final product. That looks really cool. I shouldn't see the rough draft of a BMX bike rider over on this side, and then this side has a stack of pancakes and it's about food. Okay, the final draft should follow what your rough draft is. So I'll make sure I'm really clear on that. So let me share my screen and we will get going on how to get this thing done. Dun, 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 done. Okay, so here is my Photoshoppy. And what I'm going to do is I need to go through this and open that and pop this one open right here. Okay, so I'm going to search an image. And I said I'm going to do like weightlifting for my magazine cover. So I will go with, I'll title it, or I'll search Olympic weightlifting. And I will go images, and I will try to find a cool image. Now, you should have already done this, right? Because we've gone through and found your image already. We've already talked about the issue of trying to find this image. If the image is landscape, you got to make sure you can crop it. You don't want to use a landscape image. You want to use a portrait image because that's the shape of our magazine cover. So that's what I'm going to look at as I go through here. A lot of these I'm probably not going to be able to use because this one I might be able to use. I want to look at a couple things. Number one is I'm going to look at size. Very, very large image right here. You see 1,200 pixels by 1,200 pixels, which is fantastic. I might be able to cut this one down. So you know what? I'm actually going to end up using this one. So because I like this, I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to save image as, and I'm going to save it to my downloads just because that's where I have all my other nonsense, as you can see. I'll save. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my Photoshop. I'm going to go, where's my Photoshop out? Photoshop. I'm just going to go open. Okay, so I'm not going to go create new. I'm not going to make a size for anything. I'm just going to go straight to open. I'm going to find my picture and I'm going to open it. So step one, find my photo that I already referenced from my rough draft. Find that photo and open it in Photoshop, like so. Okay. Second step, if it already is not to scale, I need to edit this to put it in scale. Okay. Which means I need to crop it. Here's our vocab word, right? This one, underline it. Crop. To crop something, and some of you might know this already, you might have used this before in other programs. To crop something basically means to trim it or to cut off edges of it, okay? So what I can do is I can go over to my toolbar, and the fifth tool down, these little overlapping angles, is my crop tool. And what I can do is I can click on that, and it gives me, again, this little kind of a bounding box, okay? Remember the bounding boxes from SpongeBob that helps us adjust the size of our shapes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on a corner and I'm going to drag it to adjust it. Or what I can do is I can draw a box around what I want to do. So let me show you like this. I can go, say I wanted to crop around her face. I can go like this, draw a box, a rectangle, boop. And I would crop, I would double click on it. And that's my new canvas. I don't want that as my canvas. I'm just showing you how it works. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go with the adjustment on the size. And I need to try to figure out where I'm going to set up my text in this picture. This is where flow comes in. Okay. You guys want to make sure that you are directing the movement of the eyes of our viewer. So if I'm looking at this picture right now and my eyes are following down the image, everything in this image is pulling my eyes to the right, pulling my eyes over this direction because she's looking that way. If I were to crop this down, I would probably crop it down to the right because now where she's looking, I can put all this information over on this side. If I were to go like this, on the other hand, crop it down that way, it will look kind of strange because it's like she's looking off the edge of the screen. It's a kind of a rule of photography. It's called the rule of thirds. But you don't want to have someone facing away from the majority of the canvas. So, a little photo side tip. So what I'll do is I will crop it right here, and I will pull it in on the side. I might move it over a little bit more by clicking in the middle. And that looks about all right. I have a little bit of space over here. I have the main images over here. See this grid here is we're talking about the rule of thirds. There's 1, 2, 3 thirds, and you want your main subject off to 1/3 of the picture. So like this, now I have this arm kind of leading the flow. Her knees are pointed towards the flow of the text, which will be over here. So this is a good place to be. Again, I will double click. Now my photo is locked and I'm good to go. Now, when looking at our magazines, looking at the thumbnails that we were drawing, the vast majority of the magazine covers that we were looking at were a solid photo with text on top of it. Okay? You don't need to cut anything out of this picture. Don't let the SpongeBob project make you think you have to start erasing things and cut it out. This is way easier than the SpongeBob project. You just have that at your disposal if you want to use it here. Right now, I'm just going to use this image. I don't need that to really take anything away from it. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my title. I'm going to title this Weightlifting Monthly. It's a very original title, I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my text. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to left align it So that means I'm going to click here. It's really tiny right now, and I'm going to type out weightlifting. WEIGHTLIFTING. I'll type out weightlifting. Awesome, Luna. I'll definitely be able to help you out. And then I can do a couple things. I can highlight it and I can adjust the text here, or we can go back to our transform tool. Remember the quick keys for that are Control and T. And when I go Control and T, I have this little box. Now, as I drag this, here's something that Photoshop normally doesn't do. If I press Control and I go to drag this thing, if you notice, my text is squished. Okay? This is like one of the biggest things to learn in my Photoshop and Illustrator class that you need to know, and it applies in Illustrator, our next program, when you're making images and stuff bigger. If you're dragging a box and you start to see it squishing like that, all you have to do is hold Shift. And by holding Shift, that's a note that you should write down. You should tattoo it onto your brain. By holding Shift, it keeps everything proportionate. The biggest fail point of my students in this class is when they do this project, do any project, and they stretch out the picture and they don't hold Shift, and it looks horrible. Now, Photoshop used to not have that as a default. They do now. So as you can recognize now, when we are adjusting images earlier, SpongeBob, we didn't have to hold Shift. I didn't have to tell you that because they've made it a default. But they haven't done it with the text. So you got to make sure if you drag it to make it bigger, you hold Shift. And then we get an Illustrator, like I said, your images, you have to hold Shift too. I'm then going to click on this. I want to make it readable. I want to make it something bright. Can anybody suggest on the comments where I should find a good color for my title text? Why red, Daniel? For those of you on videos, Daniel suggested red. Why would you say red? Bright. Will not be confused with the screen. Cool. Good idea. It's bright. It can pop off. Another thing that I can do, I agree, I will try it with red. Another reason why red might work is because there's red in this plate right here. Okay? Remember, a lot of the examples that I gave you before, a lot of the colors they would use in their text, they found off of the picture themselves. So what I'll do is I'll go red. So I'll come over here, make it really, really simple. About 2 tools down from my crop tool, you see an eyedropper tool. It's super fun because I can just take that eyedropper tool and I can come over to my red plate and I can click on it. Oh, sorry, I need to select my text first. So let me highlight my text. Then I'll grab my eyedropper tool. I'll come over to my weight, boop, and it's not letting me do it. Maybe if I highlight my text and I double click my color and it says you are, there we go. So now I double clicked on my text color box. That's the mistake that I made. So I double clicked on my text color box up here. And now you see that on the picture it has that little eyedropper. I can come over to my red and it will change the color of the weights. Oh, don't want to do that color. The red in her socks, maybe. The kind of white I think might work out better. I also don't like this typeface very much. What about like the metal? Nope. No. No. Ooh, I have an idea. So let's go like this. Don't want to use the blue. Let's use the white. Okay. I'm going to adjust this typeface because I don't care for it very much. So I'm going to come up to type. I'm going to go to, oh, it's right here. Sorry. Come to my font, my type, and I'm going to find something big and bold and strong. I don't want to use something frail. So let's go with impact. And also, what I'm going to do, you know, I kind of want to make it a little bit thicker. So, I won't do that. I will go all capitals. I'll go EIGHT, LIFTING. Ooh, that green might have been good too. Good call. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to adjust the size again by holding Control, holding Shift, and then I'm going to use my Move tool to move this around. And what I really want to make sure that I'm looking at here is as I'm setting up my title, I want to make sure that it's not like all the way up here against the edge, or it's over against the edge this way, unless I do it purposefully and I did something like this, where I'm like intentionally trying to make it like fill the entire screen, but I'm not doing that right now. So let me go like this. Move this down and over. I can also use my arrow keys on my keyboard to do that. But I'm going to go like this. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller just because I want to make sure that the space that I have on the top is similar to the space that I have on my sides. And it seems like it's off a little bit right now. Oh, whitelisting. Then I said I wanted to add monthly, right? Here's another quick, fun tool that goes into Photoshop and Illustrator. If I ever have a layer or a shape or image or something that I want to duplicate, I can copy and paste it, which we've covered a little bit, or I can hold Alt. Here's a note to write down: to copy or to duplicate a layer or a shape. I can hold Alt, and then I can click and drag that layer. I let go of my mouse, and then I let go of Alt, and I have two of them. The reason that's important is now I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to type out monthly. And I'm going to do that one in lowercase. Okay. I'm going to tuck this in under here, underneath this. And then you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that smaller. So I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to scale this down. Let's see how that looks. Yeah. I don't like the overlap here, so I'm going to click my Move tool again, use my arrows, and I'll move it a little bit. I'll line up the Y with the G. And now it's looking very structured, very laid out. Okay, so for the most part, I'm kind of liking this. The one problem that I have is it kind of blends in with some of these lighter things, but that's where that red's going to come in. So when we are using or laying out our text on here, we do not want to overkill our effects. Okay. Remember I told you that last project with SpongeBob, you need to use a minimum of 2 effects. You don't have to use any effects on this if you can do it successfully, okay? Because you can definitely have kind of like an effect overkill with laying out this magazine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my weightlifting. I'm going to make sure that that layer is selected here. And then I'm going to double click, remember, not on the word itself, but off to the side. And now I have my layer style blending options. I'm going to go down to drop shadow. Actually, let me cancel this. I'm going to zoom in, so I'm going to see what this looks like a little closer. Okay, I'll double click on the weightlifting. I will go drop shadow. I am going to take my drop shadow and I'm going to change the color. And what color do you say? I'm going to make it red. This thick red. I'll make it a little brighter than that. Okay. And now I have this really little shadow, but I don't want it to be a little shadow. I want to make the distance a little bit higher. About there. And then I'm going to make my spread really large. And I'm going to take my opacity up all the way. And then, what's my size? No, oh, don't want to do that. Ooh, maybe I do. Nope, I don't. I'm going to go like that. Press OK. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, that works all right. Although I kind of want maybe a red around the outside of it too. So let me do one more effect. Again, usually I don't do a bunch of effects. But what I will do is I will go double click this again on that weightlifting layer. I will come down to stroke. What that does is it adds a little outline around the outside of it. I'm going to change the color of that stroke and I'm going to get that same red my background is. And I'm going to go okay. My size is at 2. Yeah, I don't want to go too big. I'll keep it down at 2. So I can type 2. Outside, press OK. There you go. Kind of like that. That looks all right, okay? And now it separates a little bit as the red here. Now, what I'm going to do next, this monthly, I want that same thing, but I don't want to have to go through all those steps again. This is where Photoshop's pretty cool. You see all these effects down here. I'm going to, again, hold Alt. Remember, Alt is our copy button. And I'm going to click on all of this stuff and drag it. Actually, I'm on just a stroke right now. I want to do that thing. Oops. I got the same thing with the effects. Hold Alt, click on the effects, and it'll take all those effects up to this layer. And it drops them on there for me. Let me show you it one more time. I want to take all these effects. See, this is the first effect. These are the 2 that I used. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to click on the effects, and I'm going to drag it. And I'm going to come up to monthly. I'm going to let go of my mouse first. It drops it. Let go of my Alt. And now I have all of my text laid out. There you go. Okay. I can follow the same steps for my primary text. Say I want to use a different text than this. Okay. I want to draw more attention to it. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to type my primary text. I'm going to double click it, hold Control, gives me my bounding box. I will hold Shift as well to make sure it's locked in place. I will go like this. Put it down here a little bit, and then I'm going to change this typeface like I said. So I'm going to go, oh, will that work? I might make it even a little bit bigger. Okay, I'll go my move tool. I'll scooch this over a little bit. And now, again, we have an issue with it not showing up like where her skin is. So what I can do is I can double click here and maybe I'll just put a regular drop shadow this time. Put a drop shadow. I'll keep the angle the same, but I will use like black And then I will make this spread smaller. And I will take the opacity down, be transparent. So now if you look right here on the E on her leg, as I take the opacity down, see, it's just looking like more like a shadow. But now with here, where the E and the X are hard to see, if I bring that up, it makes that pop off a little bit more. So now it's a little easier to see. Okay. And then, yeah, I'll be okay with that. Okay. And then I can put like secondary text underneath it, like what it means to be explosive or something. Okay. So I'm not going to show you too much with that, but that's how I can add my little text and my other information on here. Again, not going overkill with my effects. The last thing that I want to do is a lot of magazines that you have seen or have researched have the text behind your image. Okay. So right now, with how this looks, my text is in front of the image, but I want to take, you know, what would be really cool if I took this weightlifting and pushed it back behind this plate, but then I had the monthly in front of that plate, because that would kind of give some depth, right? So this is how I recommend we go about doing this, and this is how the SpongeBob project works in, okay? Let's take a quick deep breath. I know this is a lot of stuff. Hopefully it's kind of review for you. This is how we're going to do this. I'm going to end up making an image sandwich. Okay? Follow me. In my layers, I see I have my monthly text, I have my explosive text, and I have my weightlifting text. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to background. I'm going to select it, because that's the layer that I'm going to manipulate. And then at the top of my layers, I have these little like 4 lines right here. It's called this my drop down menu. And if I click on that, it gives me all these different things that I can do with these layers. Well, one of the first ones is duplicate the layer. So if I click duplicate layer, it'll ask me, do you want to duplicate layer? What do you want to title it? Copy is fine. And now you see I have 2 of them. I have background and I have background copy. When I say we're going to make an image sandwich, that means I'm going to take this image and I'm going to drag it all the way to the top. And now look at my picture. When I let go of this and drop it there, all my text goes away. Because in my real world layout, I have my weightlifting picture, I have my text, and then I have another weightlifting picture. If you put down a piece of bread and you put down your peanut butter and jelly, when you put the other bread on top of it, you won't be able to see the peanut butter and jelly. Only way you can see the peanut butter and jelly is if you cut a hole in top of that bread and you take it out, and now you can see the peanut butter and jelly. You get what I'm saying? Or you're just hungry. I make a lot of food analogies, apparently. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. I'm going to use my eraser, and I'm going to erase off this main image like we did with SpongeBob. I'm going to grab my eraser tool, and then watch what's going to happen. Click and drag. Okay. Now let's order it in our head. We just cut a hole out of our bread. Watch. If I take this background image and I turn it off, we see transparency grid, because now we can see through this top image to the text down here. I can turn this text off, and we see what we're looking at, what we're looking through. Okay. But if I turn this back on, the background layer, it looks kind of like I'm painting text on here. That's what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to undo this. Okay. Now I'm going to come over to grab my zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in up here. And again, I told you I want to kind of have the text show over this. I don't necessarily know where the text is right now. So here's the last little tool that I'm going to show you. In my layer palette, we've already talked about the word opacity. Opacity is how transparent something is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here. I have this layer selected. This is my top background layer to copy. I'm going to click on opacity, and I'm going to take this down. And you see what happens is that weightlifting starts to show up because that's underneath my layer. I'm making my top layer transparent. Now, the reason the image isn't changing is because you're making it transparent to an image that's already underneath it. Again, if I turn this image off, you see the whole picture is getting transparent in my opacity. Here's a full 100% opacity. And as I go down, the whole image is becoming see-through. But when I turn this background back on, it goes like that. All I want to do is kind of see where this text is a little bit. Okay? And once I can see where the text is on my top layer, I'm going to grab my eraser and I'm going to start erasing. I want to have this at about, this is at 100% right now. I want to take this down to the same thing we do with SpongeBob, about 80-ish or so. And then I'm going to make it a little bit, smaller. And I'm going to nice and smoothly come around the outside of this weight. Like this. The tighter I make this, the better it's going to look. It's so difficult doing this on a trackpad. And then all the same things work that we did in SpongeBob, your history tool, or all the different ways that you can kind of fix your problems. So I'm going to go like this. Okay. I can zoom out, space bar, and click and drag. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my opacity back up in my background layer. I copy and see if that looks good. Yeah, looks all right. Okay, there's a little space. If I'm going to be super, super precise, there's a little bit of blue up here that I want to get rid of. I can kind of shave that off. Okay, and then now that I'm here, the rest is easy because I want it to be behind this way and in front of this way. So now I just got to take my eraser and just erase all the rest of it. Take my size up like this, weightlifting monthly. And there you go. Now it looks like the text is between these two things. Oh, another issue though is all my other text down here, my explosive. Okay, I can erase if I want. Oh, sorry, this is what this image looks like now. Let me turn the text off. Let me turn off my background layer. So my image now looks like this. Let me clean this up a little bit. Okay, if I were to decide to move some of this text around, like say take the weightlifting, and I'm going to move it, it's okay now because no matter where I move it, it's going to be behind that weight. Unless I move it way down here, and then I got to erase some more stuff. Okay, so that's why we cut out the image instead of messing with the text itself. Now, the last thing that I need to do is bring my primary text back. All I got to do is take this layer, click and drag it above my background layer, and there it is. Now, any other text that I'm going to add, if it's going to be in front, I just want to make sure I put it above my background copy, and I'm good to go. Okay, once you finish this, you're going to go File, Save As. You're going to name it last name and magazine cover. Last name, magazine cover. If you're turning it in, you're going to save it as a JPEG, a JPG. If you're going to continue working on it, you're going to save it as a Photoshop, a PSD. Remember, Photoshop PSD saves all of your layers, all of your effects, all of that stuff. A JPEG compresses it all down to a flat image. Okay, I'll save mine as a Photoshop because I'm probably going to end up using this again for you guys as an example. I press save. Okay, and then I'm ready to go, ready to turn it. Okay, sure, there's questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now, and then I'll have that posted later today. This project will be due at the end of class on Wednesday. So that means you're going to have the next 20 minutes in this class. You're going to have all class tomorrow, and you're going to have all class on our asynchronous Wednesday to work on this to get it turned in. I just pretty much finished one in like 25 minutes. And granted, I know what I'm doing. But you should be able to do it in 2 days. Okay. So with that being said, if you don't have any questions, go ahead and jump off of this meeting. And if you do have questions, stay and ask like Luna. And then have a great day. I'll see you all tomorrow.